Banned in the USA. That's the status of the car I'm driving today. In a country where you can buy a firearm in the same supermarket as you buy your milk, this 1100 kilo French masterpiece is considered a bridge too far. Welcome to Performance Car Lounge. I'm Stuart Ellis, and today we're taking a look at a 2021 Alpine A110S. It is mid-engined, rear-wheel drive, and arguably the best-kept secret in the automotive world. But why exactly isn't it legal in the United States? I'll get to that, but first let's take a look at this machine they're so afraid of. For those of you in Australia, French marques aren't typically on our radar, but Alpine actually has a fascinating backstory. This car harks back to the original Berlinette that won the Monte Carlo Rally in 1971 and the first ever World Rally Championship in 1973. This specific car is finished in Thunder Grey matte, and it's a burger with the lot. Basically every option box has been ticked. Some of the big ticket items include the 18-inch forged Fuchs wheels, the carbon fibre roof, and even this Tissot Alpine Edition chronograph, a matching watch that can be attached to the dash. It even has an optional storage bin between the seats, which had to be fitted during production. You can't add it later, and trust me, you want it because there are no cup holders, and where else are you going to put your Pepsi Max or VB Tawley? The drive-away price of this car in 2021 was just under $150,000. That sounds like a lot, but its closest competitors are the Porsche Cayman or Lotus Emira. And used examples are routinely trading for over their initial purchase price, and there's only one example available for sale on car sales today. Getting the spec right is vital. The base model may be a little bit too soft and underpowered. Many owners end up paying silly money to local mechanics for stiffer springs and a tune. In my opinion, if you want the sporting version, find the S tuned from the factory and you know it's done right. Alpine states their fundamentals are agility, lightness and compactness, and they believe that driving pleasure should be experienced on any road at any speed. That's a lofty claim. Let's see if they've achieved it. This is the S model, and it benefits from a power bump from 185 kilowatts to 215 kilowatts, and it also gets 320 newton meters of torque, which is available from 2000 RPM all the way through to 6400 RPM, which is basically its red line. It's a 1.8 litre 4-cylinder turbo, and it sounds pretty good. You get plenty of burbles and pops from the exhaust, and with the engine sitting right behind your shoulders, being mid-engined, you can hear the engine whirring away and you get plenty of turbo sounds. You can hear the blow-off valve and you can hear the turbo spooling up, which is pretty cool. You enter sports mode by hitting the sport button on the steering wheel, and when you press that you get a sharper throttle response, you get crisper changes from the DCT, and you get a performance-oriented display on the dash. The other thing that it does is it disables the auto stop start. So I found that the first thing I do every time I get in this car, regardless of where I'm driving, is I push that sport button. The DCT transmission in this car suits the engine perfectly. It's a 7-speed DCT and no manual option was ever offered. And that's contentious in such a driver-focused car. But I don't feel like I'm missing out by not having a manual. And the lead engineer of the car, David Tuig, in his book actually said that manual options would likely have been heavier and distract from this car's real party piece, which is its lightness. 90% of the chassis is aluminium, and it doesn't need massive power because it's light. It doesn't need huge brakes because it's light. It has 320mm rotors front and rear with aluminium calipers, and this car just corners unlike anything other than a Lotus. It's the closest thing I can describe the way this car corners. When you head into a corner, you just have to breathe on the brakes as you go through. You hardly need them at all. It's so effortless in the way that it changes direction. It's the type of car that on a racetrack, I'd be very confident passing another car around the outside. That's how much confidence the lightness gives you when flowing into a corner. Unfortunately for me, the biggest disappointment about this car is the steering. I mean, it's good, it's fast and it's direct, but it just lacks feeling. It doesn't give you much information, it's a bit numb and artificial. I'm just not getting that information around what the front tyres are doing and what the road texture is like. And I guess I expected just a bit more from a car that's this light, rear-wheel drive and mid-engined. On the other hand, the suspension tuning in this car is brilliant. It doesn't have adaptive dampers, they're just passive dampers, but they're perfectly tuned. The ride is firm but supple, and it actually seems to improve the quicker you drive. I can tell you that the ride for this car is perfectly suited for Australian roads, whether it be in the suburbs or on a country road. It's excellent. The mid-engine layout gives the Alpine a near-perfect 44-56 weight distribution, making the chassis feel incredibly neutral and balanced. When you combine that balance with the 1100 kilo curb weight, you get the ultimate momentum car that simply flows through a sequence of corners. It captures that same lightweight magic you find in a Toyota 86 or an MX-5, but the Alpine brings significantly more punch to the party. It's all the agility of a roadster, but with the mid-engine poise and power of a junior supercar. The Alpine is a proper car when you compare it with something like a Lotus Exige, which is more akin to a go-kart than a usable daily driver. But there are some sacrifices. The frunk isn't deep enough for carry-on luggage, though you can order custom-fitted bags like the ones you see here. There's no glove box, no cup holders, and no door pockets. I think this car has the cutest little boot I have ever seen and is perfect for doing your shopping, as long as you buy a day's worth of groceries at a time. Being mid-engined, accessing the engine bay is a rigmarole, with a bunch of clips and screws needed to be removed, and I don't have time for that today. And then there are the French elements, where they seem to be trying to find solutions to problems that don't exist. There's no park gear button. You find it by putting it in neutral and holding it down, making it a car you can't drive before you RTFM. The stereo controls, including the volume adjustment, are hidden behind the steering wheel and are an abomination to use. But on the plus side, the passenger has no ability to touch the stereo, making the driver in charge of music as God intended. Even accessing the frunk is weird. You can't use the key and there is no release button. The manual release lever is in the passenger footwell. Vision out the back of the car is terrible, thanks to the letterbox slot rear window, but they do give you a reversing camera, which is in the center of the gauge cluster and not in the infotainment display, making it useless unless the steering wheel is pointed straight ahead. Looks are subjective, but I reckon the Alpine is a triumph. It's subtle, sophisticated, and blissfully free of unnecessary wings or vents. They've managed to create a car that looks exactly like a modern-day Berlinette should. It's a sporting look that's incredibly refined, and in this thunder grey matte, it looks absolutely spot on. But trust me when I tell you that all of these little niggles are completely eclipsed by the driving enjoyment that this car serves up. The doors feel light, but not cheap. The seats are Seatbelt fixed buckets, the same people who make seats for Ferrari. They hold you in tight, but are still comfortable, even for a big bloke like me. The interior isn't quite BMW or Porsche level, but Alpine spent the money where it counts, delivering a pure driving experience, to be revered at any price point. Even Gordon Murray drives one of these, and he knows a thing or two about lightweight performance cars. So, why is this actually banned in the USA? Why is it too dangerous? It's because of a specific crash standard regarding front passengers who aren't wearing a seatbelt. In the US, there is one state, New Hampshire, where it is legal not to wear a belt. So because Alpine didn't design this car to protect someone with more freedom than brains, a whole nation is banned from owning one. Sacre bleu! It seems a ridiculous reason to miss out on such a brilliant car. I never thought I would like a French car this much, but on the road you simply don't need more power, or really more anything than this. It's proof that weight is the enemy of fun. The Alpine gives you what you need and nothing you don't, while still maintaining a level of usability. Furthermore, as an Aussie driving this French F1 manufacturer car, it's really difficult to restrain yourself from randomly shouting, "Pierre!"
Gasly!
This immaculate Alpine is actually for sale, and it's the second last of 110 Alpines that made it to Aussie shores. If you are in Australia and interested in this car, drop a line to hello@performancecarlounge.com.au and I will put you in touch with the owner. Thank you so much for watching Performance Car Lounge. I'd really appreciate a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.